and welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy you're here because I'm finally getting to the top tier horror books that I read in 2021. I did kind of break it up a bit, so I did my favorite thrillers and I did the most disturbing horror books that I read in 2021 that I loved, and I will link those in the cards and in the description box down below for you guys to check out if you're interested. But here it is, my top tier horror that I read. First of all, I want to do an honorable mention to Dan Simmons. I discovered this author this year, and his books just keep getting better and better for me, and I really enjoyed all of them, but I mostly enjoyed The Terror by Dan Simmons. I read this December and I really liked it. I don't know if I liked it because I'm familiar with the Franklin expedition, and I really liked how he mixes history with the supernatural in this. It just fit seamlessly, like it could have happened, and I really enjoyed that. And yeah, I just love the epic scope of this. I mean, I think this is 800 pages, but I read it in a week in December and I was busy. I could not put it down. I was so engaged in it and I loved it. And yeah, I think it's one of his best works that I read so far. But I really did like Carrie and Comfort as well. I talked about this a lot in October. This is a vampire story that is very different vampire story. The most disturbing vampire story I've ever read, actually. And I really enjoyed this one as well. And then I started off with Summer of Night in the summer. This is very Stephen King-esque book. It reminded me a lot of it, and I enjoyed it, but it didn't blow me away as much as The Terror and Carrie and Comfort did. But highly suggest checking out Dan Simmons. If you see his books around, pick them up. I found The Terror at the thrift store recently, and boy oh boy, I was blown away. It's so good. Next book that I really loved in 2021 was Near the Bone by Christina Henry. This was a roller coaster that you're just constantly going downhill on. This is about a wife with her husband who is super abusive and horrible, and they are isolated in a cabin on a mountain, and there is a monster outside, and I loved it. It was so good. This reads very quickly. It's very fast paced and I loved every second of it. I loved the ending. I thought it was done very well and it was very concise, and less is more, you know? Less is more, and I loved that. So the next book that I really loved in 2021 was My Heart is in Chains by Stephen Graham Jones. I've talked about this book a bunch this year, so I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail about why I liked it so much. I thought about it too, because I was like, do I like this because I like slashers, or is this just a really good book? And it's the latter. It's a really good book. Like, I've seen a bunch of reviews, 5-star reviews for this, of being like, I don't even like slashers. I've never even seen a slasher, but I loved this book. So you don't even have to be a fan of slashers to like it. If you are already a fan of slashers, you're gonna like it even more. So it's about this girl, Jade, who is obsessed with slashers, and you don't know why. She's obsessed with slashers, and in their town, she is convinced that they are living a slasher movie because there's some mysterious stuff happening and the town is being gentrified, and it's just a lot of good conversations happening and a lot of slasher conversations happening in this, and the imagery is really good. How bizarre it got, I really enjoyed that aspect of it as well, and it was genius. It is so smart, and I loved it. I have goosebumps talking about it right now. And yeah, highly suggest reading this. It's so sad that, you know, it's so divisive. It is not an easy read. Jade is not an easy character. She is very complex and difficult to read. And I admired Stephen Graham Jones for writing a character like that, because that is not easy, I'm sure, to be in that headspace. And I loved it. It is so good, and I cannot wait for the next Stephen Graham Jones book to come out, because he's amazing. So the next book I really liked in 2021 was The Haunting of LEigh, Harker by Darcy Coates. This book snuck up on me, actually, because I wasn't expecting the twists and turns this took, and I really enjoyed it. You could tell Darcy Coates was kind of doing something a little different with this one, and I usually just read her books because it's like comforting, it's like cozy horror, and this one kind of kept me on the edge of my seat and kept me up at night, and I really liked that. I was so scared, and yeah, it was great, and I highly suggest checking it out. So the next two books I'm going to talk about is another author that I discovered in 2021, and I've loved her work, and that is Castro. I loved Goddess of Filth. I think I talked about this a bunch as well. This is like The Craft meets The Exorcist, and it was so good. It is so much fun. It is very short read. I think I read this in one setting. The ending is so gross, and I loved it. And then there's The Queen of the Cicadas. This is a revenge tale told from two different timelines, a 1950s timeline in Texas, and then a current present day in Texas at a wedding. And yeah, it's like almost like a haunting story, but then it takes a turn, and also this got really gross, and I admired it, and I just loved it. I loved how weird this got, and I thought there was a good conversation happening in this as well, and I absolutely loved this. I love V. Castro's work, and I can't wait to see what she comes out with next as well. Okay, another favorite read of mine I talked about a lot as well, and that is Dear Laura by Gemma Amor. This is a novella about a girl whose best friend goes missing when she's a child, and she receives a letter every year on her birthday from the kidnapper asking her to do certain things so she can know where her friend is. Yeah, and it just keeps going and going and going, and yeah, it's very dark. I was gonna add this on my most disturbing list, but I don't think it quite reach that threshold of super disturbing, even though looking at the cover you're like, that looks really disturbing. And the ending of this I thought was so good, and the character development of Laura was done so well in 100 pages. It was perfect, and I gave this 5 stars, and I highly suggest reading this if you want something short and sweet. Even if you're in a slump, this will pull you right out of it. Okay, of course I had to talk about Cirque Berserk by Jessica Guest. This was one of my most favorite reads of 2021. This was the funnest slasher I've read. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and then there's a bit of a twist in this that was so fun and so cute, and I loved it. This takes place in Florida, and a bunch of high school kids end up going on like their senior trip or whatever. They want to go to this abandoned carnival. Good idea, right? No, it's never a good idea. But the fun ensues, the imagery so good, the gore is so perfect, and I loved the characters in this, and I loved it. I highly suggest it. If you're looking for an unorthodox type of slasher, I highly suggest Cirque Berserk. And also, it's just fun saying Cirque Berserk. And the last book I'm going to talk about is The Good House by Tana Anna Reeve. This was my buddy read for October, and so was Cirque Berserk. And they both ended up like blowing me away. I really enjoyed these books. This has been out since like 2000, and I can't believe I haven't read it, and I finally did, and it's so good. This is a quiet horror. It is kind of like a slow burn horror as well, and a lot of grief horror in this. So I would look up some trigger warnings for this one because it is a bit intense, especially at the beginning. Something very dramatic happens, and the main character ends up moving away and then moving back to the good house, which is her home that she grew up in, just to kind of see if she would like to keep it, because she was thinking about selling it, because honestly, if I was in her shoes, I would. What happens, and it's very quiet horror, and it's very inner dialogue happening, and I really liked that, and character driven, and I just super enjoyed this. It felt like Stephen King almost, because there are these small town vibe situations. It kind of outreached into the town, and I always love that aspect of it when something is so bad, it just seeps out, you know, and yeah, it just gives me goosebumps thinking about it actually. So this is, yeah, very quiet, sneaks up on you type of horror, grief horror, and it was excellent, and I gave it 5 stars, and I highly suggest checking this out. It is a sleeper for sure, but it is so good. Okay, so those are the best horror books that I ended up reading in 2021. If you guys want to see like my full list, I did do that over on my Instagram. I made like a collage of like my best reads, and that's some fantasy in there, a little bit of everything, my true crime picks as well. And you guys let me know, what was your favorite read of 2021, any genre. I'm always interested in knowing, and you guys have a great day. Bye.